One transformed lawyer impacts his clients and how they treat their clients. The transformed lawyers affect their families, how they interact with their spouses and their kids and their parents, affects how they treat their colleagues, how they're a leader of their firm, how they manage their firms. It even affects communities. Welcome to the Free Lawyer Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Miles. I'm standing in a Baltimore courthouse bathroom, the dingy circuit court for Baltimore City. My hands were shaking. I was about to face one of the city's most feared attorneys in my very first solo trial. I just graduated #1 from law school, and I completed a prestigious federal clerkship in the U.S. District Court for the District of Maryland before one of the very best judges there. I had seen good lawyers and bad lawyers and learned from both during my clerkship. On paper, I looked like I had it all figured out, but that voice in my head was screaming, "You're way too inexperienced. This guy's going to destroy you. You're going to embarrass yourself in front of everyone." Here's the crazy part. 30 years later, after winning hundreds of cases and managing a successful firm, I discovered something that will transform how you think about success in law. Our biggest professional battles are not fought in courtrooms. They're fought actually in our own minds. Today I want to share with you how a bullied kid who became a perfectionist trial lawyer eventually discovered that true freedom is not about being flawless. It's about being authentic. And this is the journey, my journey, from prisoner of my own success to helping lawyers break free. So often I talk to a number of you on the phone, and the question I'm always asked is, why did you decide to become a coach? Why did you decide to use your experience and help and support we lawyers? And today I'm going to share my journey and why I made that decision, why I'm so passionate about supporting you to really have the freedom and the fulfillment that you deserve. I, growing up, was really a heavy kid. In fact, to be fair, I was fat, quite heavy. I wore these nerdy glasses. I was not cool. I was a nerd, a geek. And besides that, I really was incredibly smart. I was blessed with a gift, and I outshone others in my class in the classroom. But they were the jocks. They were the popular kids. And I was picked on for how I looked, and I was picked on because my success in class made them look not so good. And so as a result, I was bullied. I was called demeaning nicknames like Arnold, the pig on Green Acres, Pugsley, and other names. And I coped with that by trying to be as successful as I could. I hid behind my achievements. My achievements became my armor against that criticism, against that bullying. So as a result, I dove into studies. I used the talent that I had, and I did incredibly well. I graduated #1 in my high school class, #1 at Loyola College in Baltimore, and #1 at University of Maryland Law School. But despite that, I still felt like an imposter. I still felt that I was not good enough. And what I learned from that is perfectionism is not about excellence. It's actually about fear. We're perfectionists because we're afraid of something. For me, I was afraid of not being good enough, of not being liked, of not being accepted. And I tried to prove that I was good enough by being as perfect as I could in school. And after I left University of Maryland Law School, I started clerking in U.S. District Court of Maryland for the Honorable C. Stanley Blair. Incredible man, incredible judge. And I had a great experience. And that combination of #1 in my law school class and having clerked in federal court would really have allowed me to go to any big law firm that I wanted to. Every other clerk went into big law. But I chose to go to a small firm instead of accepting the big law prestige. And I don't know exactly why I did that. Later in my career, for a while, I questioned it. Perhaps I was choosing comfort and ease over challenge. Probably I felt I wasn't good enough. Probably I was consumed by fear whether I would measure up. But it was part of my journey to authenticity and growth. And actually, it ended up being exactly the right choice for me because I learned to try cases very early in my career and became the manager of first Lurch and Huseman, it was called. Then it was called Huseman, Jones and Miles. I began managing it when I was about 35 years old. I was blessed to have two incredible mentors there. Dick Lurch, he was a quiet, soft-spoken, with an amazing manner. Everyone liked him. He connected with the juries, he connected with the judges, and he was incredibly successful in a very quiet, unassuming way, not a loud and abrasive way. And I learned from him the gift of authenticity and humility. And my other partner there, mentor, was Joe Huseman. Joe had fought in the Battle of Chosin Reservoir. He was incredibly courageous and strong. And he was so dedicated to his clients, he literally never cared what anyone else ever thought about him. And I grew up being a people pleaser, trying to earn praise, trying to earn being liked. He didn't honestly care what people thought about him because he was going to do the right thing for his clients no matter what that meant. And I learned that excellence and authenticity and courage can all coexist together. And I also learned this reality from my career as a trial lawyer. External validation never quiets our internal criticism. In other words, receiving praise from your success, accomplishing a big victory in court, getting promoted to partner, or even managing partner, never stops the criticism that we give ourselves. It never stops that inner critic from saying, we're not good enough. And I've grown up with a passion to show lawyers how to feel fulfilled inside, even when they're so successful on the outside. First 30 years of my practice, I did mostly transportation litigation. I was hired by specialized insurance companies who defended trucking companies, trucks and truck drivers, to represent them in cases throughout the state of Maryland. They were tough cases. The injuries were often very serious, and unfortunately I had to handle a lot of fatalities. I was defending the big bad truck companies. No one likes the trucker. No one likes the trucking company. Everyone had sympathy for the injured party. But that was my job. I did it for 30 years. It was very difficult, and I also was honestly quite successful at it. I had a really good track record. I used what I learned from Dick Lurch to really connect with the juries in a humble and authentic way. But the paradox was, at one point I won 12 cases in a row, but I still doubted myself. I still didn't believe in myself. That success on the outside did not silence my inner critic. And I also learned this, that going to courtroom is very unpredictable. Sometimes you lose the sure thing case. I tried a case very late in my career where it was a simple motor tort. I represent the plaintiff. It was a quite easy case. Medicals were difficult, medicals were challenged, but the other lawyer really barely contested liability. Hardly. And the jury ruled for the defendant. I lost. My client lost. And at first I was devastated, but I learned from that whatever we do in law, we cannot control the outcomes. We can only control our preparation, our effort, and our commitment to the clients. And early in my career, for the first 12 years or so, I struggled with addiction. I was very successful during the day, but engaged in a pattern of excessive secret drinking at night. And it became something I had no control over. It became my obsession, my compulsion, my craving. And at some point I had a blackout after a conversation with my 15-year-old niece and goddaughter. I woke up the next morning and didn't remember everything. I made a decision then that really has changed my life. I made a decision to enter recovery. I found hope in the stories of others whose lives have been miraculously transformed. And I've been sober since that time. And through recovery, I've learned some principles that truly revolutionized my life and my law practice. I've learned the importance of being authentic, to be humble, to be present in the moment, to not get too stuck in the past and what went wrong, or too worried and fearful of the future, to accept those things I can't control, to be accountable for my actions and my choices, to be as honest as I can, and to try to learn to practice humility. But mostly I learned that transformation is possible, and transformation is possible at any point in your life. 15 years ago, I decided to transform myself again. I decided to move away from the practice of insurance defense. I wanted something I found more fulfilling, something where I could make a difference in someone's life, and I decided to become a high-level divorce and custody attorney. I became a family lawyer, and I did that for the last 15 years of my career. A completely different field, but again, I learned that transformation is very possible. 4 years ago, Brenda and I moved from Baltimore area to Pinehurst, North Carolina. Part of our long-term plan, but it honestly happened a little bit sooner than I thought. And I transitioned from being managing partner of Huseman, Jones & Miles and the majority partner to simply help counsel as a part-time employee. And I came here and I realized my passion for helping and supporting lawyers. And as I reflected on my career, I realized that every struggle I had, being bullied as a kid, being fearful and doubting myself as a lawyer, my struggles with addiction, every one of those was preparation for what I'm doing today. My passion today is to help lawyers trapped by their own success. I've learned that the more successful we are, sometimes the more we doubt ourselves. The more successful we are, the more we feel we have to continue that success day after day or someone's going to question us. And I've learned that what fuels our success can often fuel our own fears, our own perfectionism. I love practicing law. I love helping my clients. One-on-one, I love being successful for them. But one transformed lawyer impacts his clients and how they treat their clients. The transformed lawyers affect their families, how they interact with their spouses and their kids and their parents, affects how they treat their colleagues, how they're a leader of their firm, how they manage their firms. It even affects communities. I began to realize that if I could help and support lawyers, one lawyer at a time, I could help change their lives and the lives of everyone around them and really help to change the legal profession. So why do I coach? Why has this work set my soul on fire? The first is I found that for me, the greatest joy in life is the joy of being of service, of finding ways to help and serve other people. And when I work with a lawyer and I see how they go from being fearful and doubting themselves to confident and happy and fulfilled, it fuels my soul. And I've seen so many changes in the profession over my years. Law was difficult when I became a lawyer over 45 years ago, but it's so much harder today in so many ways. Our clients are more demanding. Lawyers are more competitive with each other. There are more lawyers, it seems like, than what we need. Life has gotten so fast between emails and technology, allowing papers to be immediately served and aggressive emails from attorneys showing up on our desk all hours of the day and clients expecting immediate results. But transformation is available to each of you anytime. And I've seen so many highly successful lawyers who on the outside look like they have everything, but inside they feel unfulfilled. They feel stuck. They feel like they're in a prison they feel of their own making. But it doesn't have to be that way. And this work matters so much now. The statistics are really quite scary. We're all familiar probably by now with the ABA study that the rates of anxiety and clinical depression in our profession are simply unbelievable, higher than any other profession. The addiction rates are 25% to a third, clinical depression in the same area. And even suicidal thoughts. Something like 11.9% of the lawyers had suicidal thoughts who answered the ABA survey. And they're the ones who answered it. That's amazing. And the stress of our profession contributes to all of that. And our law schools do a great job of teaching technical skills. But they develop the same competitive perfectionists that we struggle with in our practice. And law schools don't really help their students with the internal challenges they face with handling their inner critic. And so it's such an opportunity now because, trust me, transformation is possible at any stage of your career, whether you've been practicing for 30 years or for 5. And all you have to do is be open to that change. I have this vision that just gives me so much energy of lawyers practicing from strength and confidence and not from fear, of their practices serving their life rather than consuming them, of success no longer being measured by billable hours and clients and originations and winning cases, but success being measured by how sustainable their practice is, how authentic they are, how fulfilled they feel, how present they are with families, and the impact they're making on their clients' lives and on the profession. And I learned that as lawyers grow and change, it has a ripple effect on their clients. Their clients value you more when you're authentic, confident, humble, fulfilled. You have more time for your families. You can be truly present with them. Your colleagues grow to respect you more. You become a better leader, and our communities themselves can improve. Here's what 46 years in this profession has taught me. Your past struggles do not disqualify you from success. In fact, they prepare you for significance, for relevance, for change, for growth. Every internal battle you've ever fought, every moment of self-doubt, every fear that you faced, they all have been preparing you to serve at a level you never imagined possible. The legal profession needs lawyers who've done this internal work. The profession needs lawyers who have opened their minds to a new way of practicing law, to becoming a truly free lawyer. Our clients deserve lawyers who bring authenticity, not anxiety and fear, to every interaction. Our families need us present and engaged, not depleted and distant. Your transformation story is still waiting to be written. The question is not whether change is possible. I've seen entirely too many miracles to doubt that. The question instead is whether you're ready to stop being a prisoner of your own success and to start practicing with the freedom you deserve. Remember, true success is not about being flawless. It's about being authentic, confident, sustainable, committed, and genuinely helpful to others. The journey from perfectionist to free lawyer, it's not always easy. But trust me, it's always worth it. And you don't have to do it alone. If today's conversation resonated with you at all, I would love to explore how coaching might serve your unique situation. Visit me at GaryMiles.net to schedule a completely complimentary consultation, or you can click on the link in the show notes. Your freedom is waiting. Don't miss this opportunity. Thank you so very much for being with me here today. I appreciate each and every one of you. And as always, please be well, be safe, and be free.